Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Cannabis Coast to Coast News. This is the final section, or the C block. I'm Alaina Pinto. A reminder to download our app, PCM TV, at the App Store or Google Play, so you can follow our news coverage every week on demand. Next up, the state of Massachusetts. It's celebrating another sales milestone. The first East Coast state to legalize adult use sales of cannabis now has surpassed the $6 billion mark, and yet many feel the market has reached its limit. No limits on the publicly traded stocks, which is where Doug Miller plays in his High on Wall Street segment, followed by Debi Facey in Canada. Here it is.
I'm Doug Miller from High on Wall Street with this week's Cannabis Stock Report for Cannabis Coast to Coast. SNDL has acquired all of the issued and outstanding common shares in the capital of Nova that were not already owned by SNDL. The acquisition of Nova's remaining minority interest represents a significant milestone that will streamline SNDL's cannabis retail operations and generate material savings by eliminating public company expenses, said Zachary George, SNDL CEO. The Nova shares are expected to delist from the TSX and the OTC markets. So let's see how the SNDL stock chart looks. It is trading around $2.18, and it's running up, and it's setting up the run up even higher. So watch for dips and trade smart. And that's this week's Cannabis Stock Report. Reporting for Cannabis Coast to Coast, I'm Doug Miller.
This is Debi Facey with the Canadian Coast to Coast Cannabis Report. So what we have in our first story is the company ReadMe had a recall of their ripped zone in and out pre-rolls that were sold between the days of October 2nd to 11th out in Alberta, and this is due to the fact that they were not properly tested. This means that their labeling was incorrect, and this should be not only taken off the shelves, but for any consumers that do have this product, please do not smoke it. Next, what we have is Yukon asking for a revision when it comes to consumption lounges. They are noticing that even though that they have restricted the consumption of cannabis only to private establishments, so it's their house, there's a lot of public consumption happening outdoors. This is something that they have noticed, they are trying to address, and they are initially now stating that they would like to have consumption zones just to ensure that not only they are subduing any of the illicit market, but they are also giving their consumers a safe, great place to consume their cannabis. This is Debi Facey with your Canadian Coast to Coast News Report. Peace.
I'm Marianne from Alibi with the Oregon Cannabis Report for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. Two big stories out of Oregon this week. The first is that cannabis regulators are proposing revoking licenses and issuing fines for 7 labs for potency inflation, and also not following sampling protocols. There are only 11 labs in the whole state, so this has the potential of creating backlogs for getting product tested. There is reported to be video footage of lab employees adding kief to flower samples, which would of course distort the potency result. It's important for consumers to have confidence that their products are free from harmful pesticides, heavy metals, and toxic molds, but potency is not a consumer safety issue. Next, this year's outdoor harvest is reported to be one of the best. The weather has cooperated, with the rains holding off until late fall. Last year, many crops were ruined because of the rain and extreme fires. This year, there were fewer wildfires and the weather was sunny and warm. Final harvested weights are not all in, but this is all good news for the sun-grown farmers in Southern Oregon who deserve a break. That's the Oregon Cannabis Report. I'm Marianne with Alibi for Cannabis Coast to Coast News.
In Florida, Governor Ron DeSantis is facing more criticism about his tactics in fighting against the adult use ballot initiative. This week, he called on 3 sheriffs to join his No on 3 initiative with various sound bites about driving while impaired and one against domestic violence. That sheriff is quoted saying, "When we investigate domestic assault, it usually involves marijuana. Yet there have been many research studies that says the opposite occurs. With the latest polls on the Yes on 3 initiative in Florida, here's our Florida resident and correspondent, Jeff Aker.
Hi, I'm Jeff Aker, Master Gardener from Florida with your Cannabis Coast to Coast news. As for what's been going on here in Florida is a lot of recovery due to Hurricane Milton. But we're getting back on our feet. One of the most interesting things is I'm seeing a lot of tankers, like big gas tankers pumping water out of one area and taking it to another. It's very interesting to see, but recovery efforts are going good. As for the vote, by the time you see this, depending if I make the A block, the B block, or the C block of Cannabis News Coast to Coast, it'll only be 6, 7, 8 more days till we know we vote. I voted Tuesday. I voted yes. Notables, I read an article that Jimmy sent me about the idea of the medical industry here in Florida hurting because of recreational. If DeSantis signs it, it could, because it costs like $175 to get the license, it's $75 to get a doctor, end up having about $250 in it. It's all going to boil down to cost in Florida, I believe. If recreational gets passed here in Florida, which I hope it does, if it costs a tremendous amount of money versus medical, there's going to be people go medical. If it's a tremendous amount of money different than black market, I fear it's not going to help our black market. So it's a lot of different factors floating around in Florida right now, so stay tuned, subscribe, come back. I'll have the latest and greatest right as we vote. I voted already, and guess what I did? I'm Jeff Aker for Cannabis News Coast to Coast.
Hi, I'm Christina Brisson with Over the Top Renovations with your weekly Ohio Cannabis Report with Cannabis Coast to Coast News, coming to you this week from the highest point in Ohio. Quick update this week, Zane State College has added additional programs, multiple certificate programs in the cannabis industry, as well as last month at the Ohio Business Summit, Kathy Mendino presented herself as a one-stop shop, woman-owned shop for HR for the cannabis industry, who faces a lot of problems and challenges with federal prohibition with payroll, financial transactions, and other compliance. So here's to hoping to see her succeed in this new business. I'll come to you more with more news next week for the Ohio Cannabis Report. And again, I am Christina Brisson with Over the Top Renovations with Cannabis Coast to Coast News.
In serene Springfield, Ohio, Ethan battles anxiety and persistent body pain. Seeking relief, he turns to Yellow Labs' Calm THC cream, offering tranquility via delivery technology. Massaging in the cream, Ethan feels waves of peace and serenity easing his anxiety and tension. Empowered by the remarkable relief, he sets out on a journey towards healing and renewal. Drawn to Yellow Labs' transformative offerings, the Calm THC cream becomes a beacon of comfort, soothing both his physical and emotional pain.
In the Garden State of New Jersey this week, a new bill was introduced that would allow citizens who have a substance abuse disorder related to cannabis to ban themselves voluntarily from all dispensaries. The bill was loosely based on a similar bill for gamblers to keep those afflicted with that addiction from entering casinos. Since that bill was introduced, the list has grown from over 1,000 participants to over 23,000. Arkansas continues to struggle with their ballot question about cannabis reform, and now the state Supreme Court has ruled that the current ballot question is too vague and no votes will be counted, even though the question is already on the printed ballot. What a mess. Here's Kevin Shakir, the Shake Man, with more.
Kevin Shakir, aka the Shake Man, for Cannabis Coast to Coast News, and this is the Arkansas Cannabis Report. Can you say it's a magic trick? Somehow the vote has disappeared. The Arkansas State Supreme Court has ruled that they will not count the vote for the ballot initiative that's on there for the amendment of marijuana for adult use and patient grow. So, hey, it is what it is. On a 43 vote, they decided that there was technical aspects to the amendment that they did not find favorable for the patients, so they pulled the whole thing. Again, when we talked to Arkansans for patient access, basically they were disappointed, but not disheartened as far as moving forward. They will be moving forward with new things to come and new ways to battle. I also want to let everyone know that I am going to be expanding onto a new platform called Fanbase. We can actually have a lot of cannabis type reviews, articles, and all of that stuff. So again, the Shake Man 420, you look for that handle. I'll be on, again, Fanbase. So join me there until then. And also make sure that you keep it right here on Cannabis Coast to Coast News. We will be combining both of them. Some of the news reports that are too long over here, I will move them over to Fanbase. Again, Kevin Shakir, aka the Shake Man. Now back to more cannabis news with Alaina Pinto.
And finally tonight, the power of the female when it comes to cannabis is non-negotiable since the male plant is useless. All of the flowering plants of cannabis sativa are females. And now there's some research on what impact that might have on sales. The National Institute for Drug Abuse reports that for the first time, women ages 19 to 30 are spending more on cannabis than men. The NIDA director, Nora Volkow, thinks that trend might have been caused by the amount of anxiety and stress that cannabis relieves. There's also more evidence from Jointly, a discovery data app that says that women now account for 55% of all users of the plant medicine and will spend on average $91 per purchase, and men spend $89. Well, now you might see a shift by manufacturers in how they market their beverages, edibles, and tinctures. Products like that, many women prefer. Okay, what do you think? Leave it in the comments. That's this week's Cannabis Coast to Coast News. Remember, it's a whole new world of weed out there. Use it responsibly.
I think I messed up. Did you know there's a place that covers all the cannabis news you need? Welcome to Pro Cannabis Media, your go-to for all things cannabis. PCM is the CNBC of weed, bringing you the latest news and talk shows with a twist. We've got 16 state correspondents and multimedia journalists from around the US and Canada.
Hey everybody, it's Brandon Jones with Big Green Distribution with the Missouri Cannabis Report.
I'm Karen Black from Greenfinger Consulting with the Arizona Cannabis Report.
I'm Amy Carter from Michigan Weedsters.
Andrew Behringer here reporting from Washington, D.C.
It's Debi Facey with the Canadian Toke of the Week.
It all started back in 2018 when founder Jimmy Young kicked off the In the Weeds podcast. His mission? Documenting the fight to end cannabis prohibition. Fast forward to today and we've got Cannabis Coast to Coast with Alaina Pinto, delivering the nation's only TV-style cannabis news show.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Cannabis Coast to Coast News, Pro Cannabis Media's weekly roundup of the news from the industry. I'm Alaina Pinto.
As of August 2024, PCM has racked up over 1.2 million views and 14.5 million impressions on our YouTube channel. With 15,000 subscribers and growing, our reach is spreading like wildfire. PCM's website, YouTube, Rumble, Discord, Roku, Twitch, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, and even our very own PCM TV app. Get your cannabis news fix with Pro Cannabis Media. We're here to keep you informed and entertained. Stay tuned and stay lifted.